Tomorrow is World AIDS Day, and the theme for this year is Leading with Science, Uniting for Action. So if I could have the first slide. This is the human immunodeficiency virus, a retrovirus that causes AIDS. So in terms of the science part, this is by far the most well-studied virus on the planet. And it's also led us to much more insight into the immune system of humans. But there's still no cure or vaccine for this virus, although we do have treatments these days. Nor has our knowledge removed the stigma from AIDS. It's not a topic for date nights, and that's how it spread. So it still is a severe problem in the world, of course. But the science is ongoing, and hopefully some of you might actually contribute to that science someday. Okay, the next slide. Some statistics. About 34 million people are infected with HIV today, and at least 9 million of those don't know it. 22.5 million people in sub-Saharan Africa are infected, about 4 million in Asia, and in this country about 1.2 million. And out of those, less than 1 million are actually know to be HIV positive. Almost 300,000 are HIV positive and don't know it. So, as to action, I mentioned treatments. In 2010, we saw the largest ever annual increase in those receiving antiretroviral therapies, which have become very effective in making AIDS more of a chronic disease and less life-threatening. This increase was in low and middle-income countries. This is an increase of over 1.5 million from 2009, and is up 100-fold since 2003. So approximately 6.6 million people are receiving antiretroviral therapies these days. So that's progress. This is still less than half of the estimated 15 million who should be treated. Have the next slide. So the global prevalence you see here, you see the most severe affected areas in sub-Saharan Africa by far, where AIDS is basically a heterosexually spread disease. So in terms of action, ignorance is our enemy here. Knowledge is what we need. I urge you to know your HIV status, get tested, fight ignorance and stigma, and we'll hear some more about some other actions that we can take later on in today's program. Thank you.
Good morning. As an African native, I have personally seen the dark and immense threat of AIDS pandemic, at the point that some villages were almost wiped out in northern part of Tanzania. I walked through villages and witnessed graves across miles as young boys in secondary school in Tanzania. It was very threatening. Families were destroyed. There was a loss of hope for life, and especially for young people, the able-bodied people, which directly affected the economy of many African countries, since those able-bodied people passed away due to AIDS. As we all know, AIDS is a sexually transmitted disease, as Dr. Jonas shared with us. It can also be transmitted through blood transfusion and also birth if a pregnant mother is infected and there's no available medical support at the point of delivery to prevent the baby from being infected. Thank God nowadays this was a huge threat in Africa, because we know that, I say thank God, because mosquitoes don't transmit AIDS. And many African nations lie within the tropical zones, equatorial zone, conducive environment for mosquitoes. But I'm mentioning this because the number one killer disease in Africa is malaria, and AIDS is number 3. And malaria is transmitted through mosquito bites. They bite you, Actually, they suck your blood. And that's how you get the AIDS parasites. You get the malaria parasites. And then if they go and bite another person, that's how they transmit malaria. And they suck blood. So the question here was, well, do mosquitoes also transmit AIDS? And thank God they do not. So that was really a big thing to understand, that that fear was not there. Here's my T-shirt. Like everybody can see, my T-shirt here is for you, and really for you is the right translation for this is, there is no healing without caring. There is no healing without caring. Now, caring here, I think the big key here is, as Dr. Jonas shared with us, how do we care for the people who are in need? How do we care for the people who have AIDS? And here's the number one key thing. As he said, knowledge, I'm going to call it education. Education is the key. People need to be educated how AIDS is transmitted, and what is AIDS, how AIDS is prevented, and also how to support people who have AIDS. Is through education. That's the key. Is through education. Now, the society is left with a constant reminder back home in Africa of the devastations of AIDS through the growing number of orphans every year. And these are the children that some of them are perfectly healthy. They were born perfectly healthy, but their daddy and mommy are no longer around because they've died. They're perfectly healthy children. These are orphans. The second category, these are the kids who are born with AIDS viruses, again through birth. If the mother is infected and they're born and there is no proper medical support to prevent the baby from being infected, then they get infected that way. So this is a continuous reminder. And these kids need continuous medical help. Very expensive. They cannot afford it. It's not there. They also need to be provided with healthy food and supporting living environment. The Watoto Project is raising awareness for the needy children like the orphans in Tanzania and many African nations. We are called upon to be the voices of the little ones around the world. And we are called upon to pray for them as we did this morning, and continue to pray for them and support them through our deeds. I know for sure, just think of yourself at home, in your house, in your apartment, many other places. The children clothes you have in your closet, the used ones, you no longer need them. Some school supplies you have also around your home, around your house. You don't need them, probably. Children textbook you have around your home, in your closet, probably don't use them. And of course, also the funds you have that can make a difference to these children. And I urge you to think how you can be part of their lives in many ways. I would like to thank the Center for Servant Leadership for engaging the TLU students, staff, and faculty, and also the TLU community around us to bring awareness and also the support for the God Project. Thank you.